Thomas is now as happy as can be. He has a branchline all to himself and puffs proudly backwards and forwards with two coaches all day. They don't have names yet, but Thomas loves them very much. One can only take passengers, but the other can take passengers, luggage, and the guard. One day, Thomas was at the junction waiting for James's train.
Why is James so slow?
Thomas, you're always getting so cross.
I agree. You really ought to think about something else to take your mind off it.
You're right. How about we think of names to give you? I can't keep calling you coaches after all.
Thomas was suddenly interrupted by James's whistle.
I'm sorry, you two. I'll have to come up with your names later.
Names for those old things. They're only wooden boxes with seats, not luxurious express coaches.
Well, they're luxurious coaches to me, and without them, my branch wouldn't run as reliably as it does.
Two passengers had gotten off of James's train and were looking about the station in awe and had almost forgotten to board Thomas's train until they heard the guard's whistle and saw Thomas puffing out of the station.
Oh, what now?
Sorry, mate. Two passengers were waving at us to stop.
Not very reliable now, are you?
Thomas didn't say anything. He just wheeshed steam at James as he hurried off to the top station.
Silly James. Why shouldn't my coaches have names?
At the end of the line, Thomas had arrived on time but was still annoyed at what James had said. Soon, the two visitors came up to Thomas and said something that he didn't understand a word of.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand.
One of the visitors pulled out a small book and apologized for delaying him at the junction. Thomas simply smiled and the two visitors walked to the station building. Over the next few days, Thomas noticed something different on his runs up the line.
Look at that! It's those two visitors!
They must be taking hikes around the area.
I can see why. The countryside is so beautiful at this time of year.
Quite right. I'm sure the weather will stay like this for a while.
Unfortunately for Thomas, the next day brought heavy rain clouds. It was still dry when Thomas pushed his train down the line. However, Thomas had only just steamed out of the second tunnel as the rain began. He was just passing the river when suddenly the brakes were put on.
Oh, bother. What's the matter now?
I don't know, but the guard is standing by the line.
You two, what's going on back there?
It's one of those visitors, Thomas. They were standing near the river waving at us to stop.
Ugh, I know it's raining, but that's no reason to stop a train in the middle of the line.
Then the guard came up to the car and explained what was going on.
It's those two passengers again. One of them has sprained their ankle when they fell into the river.
How did they go and do that?
Must have slipped on the mud. Anyway, I've placed them in my compartment. but we need to get them to the junction.
Well, what are we waiting for? We've got to get them there.
I'll go tell the signalman to call the hospital, so there's an ambulance waiting for us.
It was only a minute, but Thomas felt like it was ages. He wanted to get to the junction as soon as possible.
Oh, come along! Oh, come along!
Thomas thundered out of the station. He had completely forgotten about the rain as he roared down the line towards the junction. When they arrived, there was an ambulance waiting in the station car park and 2 paramedics waiting on the platform ready to take the visitor.
I do hope they get better.
Goodness me, Thomas, we never even asked their names.
Oh, you're right. I hope we can see them again, then we can ask.
Thomas didn't hear from the 2 of them for a few weeks, until one day at the junction.
Look at this, lads. The station master gave me a letter. It says it's from one of those foreign visitors we helped.
Does it really take that long to write a letter?
Well, they probably spent all that time learning to write in English.
Well, what does it say?
They send their thanks and say how splendid our railway is.
Always trying to please the Fat Controller, aren't you, Thomas?
Did they leave their names?
It says it's signed Annette and Claudette.
Oh, very fancy. They sound very elegant.
Annette and Claudette. You know, I think I've found the perfect names for you two.
And what would those be?
Annie and Clarabel.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. Oh, thank you, Thomas. So you finally gave names to your wooden boxes?
Yes, and now they have names, you can start calling them as such.
Thomas the Tank Engine is very proud of his branch line. He thinks it's the most important part of the whole railway. He has 2 coaches. They're old and need new paint, but he loves them very much. He calls them Annie and Clarabel. Annie can only take passengers, but Clarabel can take passengers, luggage, and the guard. When the Fat Controller heard how brave Thomas had been, he sent Annie and Clarabel to get their names painted, and now Thomas is extremely proud and runs backwards and forwards along the line, singing little songs to them every day.